shadows and starlight. Olivia Reed's fingers ached as she scrubbed at the marble countertop, her reflection ghosting across its polished surface. 4 hours into her shift at Thornfield Towers, and she had yet to encounter the penthouse's owner, exactly how she preferred it. The 43rd floor penthouse belonged to Dominic Everett, founder of Everett Innovations. Worth billions at 34, he was notorious for his brilliant mind and glacial demeanor. Olivia had worked here for 8 months, and he'd spoken perhaps 20 words to her in total. "Just how I like it," she whispered to herself, adjusting her simple uniform. Invisibility meant job security. Job security meant rent paid on time and night classes in business management. Dreams had to start somewhere. The penthouse was a minimalist showcase of steel, glass, and marble, impeccably designed, utterly impersonal. No photographs, no mementos, only expensive art that Olivia suspected had been selected by a decorator rather than the man himself. She moved to dust the bookshelves in his home office, careful not to disturb the precise arrangement of technology books and economic treatises. The only personal touch was a worn copy of The Count of Monte Cristo that seemed out of place among the academic tomes. The elevator pinged. Olivia froze. Mr. Everett wasn't due home for hours. She slipped into the hallway as the elevator doors opened. Dominic Everett strode out, phone pressed to his ear, not even glancing her way. His tailored charcoal suit emphasized his tall frame, dark hair precisely cut, his expression locked in concentration. "I don't care what excuses Patterson's making. The algorithm isn't performing to specifications, and we're not launching until it does." His voice was level but carried an edge that probably terrified his employees. Olivia pressed herself against the wall, willing herself invisible. He walked past, trailing expensive cologne and authority, continuing his conversation without acknowledging her existence. This was their routine. He existed in a world of corporate acquisitions and technological innovation. She existed to erase fingerprints from his glass tables and replace towels he barely used. In her small apartment 15 miles and a socioeconomic universe away, Olivia had a different life. There, she wasn't invisible, but rather the responsible one her younger sister Penny relied on since their parents' accident 3 years ago. At 26, Olivia had postponed her own dreams to ensure Penny could finish high school without disruption. The evening shadows lengthened across the penthouse as Olivia finished her duties. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city transformed into a constellation of lights, beautiful and distant. She allowed herself a moment to stand where he must often stand, looking out at an empire of possibilities. Behind her, a throat cleared. Olivia spun around, heart racing. Dominic Everett stood in the doorway, jacket removed, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. For once, he was looking directly at her. "I apologize," she stammered. "I was just finishing up." His dark eyes assessed her for an uncomfortable moment. "The west bathroom sink is dripping." "I'll have maintenance look at it tomorrow," she replied. He nodded once and turned away, already dismissing her from his thoughts as he walked toward his home office. Olivia gathered her cleaning supplies, exhaling slowly. Another day, another invisible performance in the life of a billionaire who probably couldn't recall her name if his life depended on it. Outside, the November sky darkened with gathering storm clouds as meteorologists warned of the season's first major snowstorm. Olivia hurried to catch her bus, unaware that the impending blizzard would trap her in that penthouse for one night. A night that would change everything. Storm locked. The blizzard struck with unexpected ferocity. Olivia had just finished polishing the last of the kitchen appliances when the penthouse plunged into darkness, the howling wind drowning out her startled gasp. "Perfect," she muttered, fumbling for her phone's flashlight. The building's emergency generators should have kicked in immediately. Something was wrong. "Ms. Reed?" Dominic's voice came from the hallway, a beam of light preceding him into the kitchen. "Are you still here?" He remembered her name. The surprise momentarily distracted her from their predicament. "Yes, Mr. Everett. I was just finishing up when the power went out." His figure materialized in the doorway, phone in hand providing illumination. In the harsh light, his features looked sharper, less controlled. The building manager just called. "Generators malfunctioning, and the storm has knocked out power across the district. Roads are already impassable." He paused, seeming uncomfortable with what he had to say next. It appears we're both stuck here for the night. Olivia's mind raced through the implications. Spending the night in her employer's penthouse felt wildly inappropriate, yet the alternative, attempting to navigate a record-breaking blizzard, seemed suicidal. "I understand," she said carefully. "I can make myself inconspicuous until morning." Something flickered across his face. Amusement, perhaps? That would be quite a feat in a blackout. "I think we'll have to acknowledge each other's existence for a few hours." Was that a joke? From Dominic Everett? The temperature was already dropping. Dominic moved with purpose, retrieving candles from a drawer and lighting them. "There's a fireplace in the living room. It's not just decorative, thankfully." They worked in awkward tandem, Dominic building a fire while Olivia gathered blankets. The domesticity of the situation felt surreal. "Are you hungry?" he asked suddenly. "We should probably eat whatever might spoil in the refrigerator." Thus began the strangest dinner of Olivia's life. Improvised refrigerator tapas by candlelight with a billionaire who normally didn't acknowledge her existence. The absurdity wasn't lost on either of them. "I feel like I should apologize," Dominic said after they'd been eating in silence for several minutes. "For the weather?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "For never properly speaking to you before tonight." He swirled the wine he'd opened. 8 months of you working in my home and I barely know your name." The honesty caught her off guard. Most employers don't socialize with their housekeepers. "Is that what I am to you? Just an employer?" The question hung between them, complicated and dangerous. "What else would you be?" she countered softly. The firelight cast shadows across his face as he considered her question. "I don't know. A person, maybe?" Something in his voice, a note of loneliness, perhaps, made her bold. "People generally share things about themselves. What's your favorite book?" His surprise gave way to a genuine smile that transformed his face. "The Count of Monte Cristo." "The revenge story." "I wouldn't have guessed." "It's not about revenge," he corrected. "It's about transformation, becoming someone new when life forces your hand." The conversation flowed more easily after that, moving from books to films to places they'd traveled. Dominic, freed from his corporate persona, revealed a dry wit and curiosity about her night classes. Olivia, forgetting he was her employer, challenged his cynical views on people's motivations. Hours passed unnoticed. The candles burned low as they moved from superficial topics to deeper waters. His isolated childhood as the son of cold, demanding parents. Her struggle raising her sister after losing their parents. "You've sacrificed a lot," he observed as she described postponing her education. "We do what's necessary for the people we love," she replied simply. Something vulnerable flashed in his eyes. "I wouldn't know." The storm raged outside, but in the fire-lit penthouse, something shifted between them, boundaries blurring as the night deepened. Neither acknowledged the strange intimacy developing in this suspended reality, both perhaps understanding that morning light might erase whatever was being written in the darkness. Daybreak Change's morning arrived with harsh fluorescent clarity as power returned to Thornfield Towers. Olivia, who had fallen asleep on the couch wrapped in a cashmere throw, awoke to find the penthouse transformed back into its impersonal splendor. The magic of their fireside conversation seemed like a dream. Dominic emerged from his bedroom in a fresh suit, his expression once again unreadable. "The roads have been cleared. I've called a car service for you." Just like that, the wall between them rematerialized. Olivia gathered her things, unsure what to say. Last night they'd shared confidences. Today they were employer and employee again. "Thank you, Mr. Everett," she said formally. He nodded, already checking emails on his phone. As she headed for the elevator, his voice stopped her. "Miss Reed?" He paused, seeming to reconsider his words. "My executive assistant gave notice yesterday. I need someone organized, discreet, and capable of handling difficult situations." Olivia turned slowly. "Are you offering me a job?" "It would be a significant pay increase. You'd accompany me to meetings, manage my schedule, coordinate with clients." He spoke rapidly, all business. "Your business classes would be relevant experience. The offer was unexpected, professionally illogical, and potentially life-changing. Why me? For a moment, something of last night's honesty returned to his eyes. You're the only person who's been in my home for months and hasn't wanted something from me. 2 days later, Olivia found herself on the executive floor of Everett Tower, occupying the desk outside Dominic's office. Her simple uniform replaced by a charcoal pencil skirt and cream blouse purchased with her substantial advance. Her sister Penny had been ecstatic about the sudden windfall, already planning how Olivia could finally return to school full-time. The transition was dizzying. One day she was cleaning countertops. The next she was scheduling meetings with tech industry titans and fielding calls from investors. She'd always been organized and quick to learn, but this was like being thrown into the deep end of a pool and told to win an Olympic race. "Mr. Everett needs these contracts reviewed by lunch," announced Eleanor Vance, the CFO, dropping a stack of documents on Olivia's desk. Her perfectly manicured hand lingered. "Fascinating career trajectory you've had. Housekeeper to executive assistant overnight." The implication was clear in her arched eyebrow. "I'm a quick study," Olivia replied evenly. "I'm sure you are," Eleanor murmured before clicking away on stiletto heels. The whispers followed Olivia everywhere. The cleaning staff she'd once worked alongside now called her Miss Reed with stiff formality. Executives wondered aloud what special skills had earned her such a promotion. Meanwhile, Dominic behaved as though their night of connection had never happened. He was professional, occasionally demanding, but always distant. The only acknowledgement of their previous relationship was his patience when explaining industry terms she didn't understand. Weeks passed. Olivia mastered the complexities of her position, staying late to study company reports and industry news. She reorganized Dominic's chaotic filing system, streamlined his schedule, and anticipated his needs before he articulated them. If she occasionally caught him watching her with an unreadable expression, she pretended not to notice. If her heart sometimes raced when they worked late together, she attributed it to professional anxiety. One evening, as she delivered updated quarterly projections to his office, she found him standing at the window, silhouetted against the city lights, exactly as she had stood in his penthouse that fateful evening. "Is everything all right, Mr. Everett?" He didn't turn. "Do you ever regret accepting this position?" The question startled her. "No, why would I? People talk. I've heard what they're saying about you, about us." Heat crept into her cheeks. "People always talk. It doesn't make them right." He finally faced her, his expression troubled. "Perhaps I made a mistake. In hiring me? In pretending that night never happened." Part 4. Colliding Worlds. The annual Everett Innovations Gala represented everything Olivia had never been part of: wealth, influence, power. As Dominic's executive assistant, her attendance was required, though she felt as out of place as a sparrow among peacocks. She smoothed the midnight blue gown she'd splurged on, still off the rack, but the most expensive piece of clothing she'd ever owned. Around her neck gleamed a simple silver pendant that had belonged to her mother. Among diamonds and designer labels, it was her talisman of belonging. "You look lost," came a warm voice. A woman with silver-streaked dark hair approached, champagne in hand. "I'm Helen Matsuda, R&D Director, Olivia Reed, Mr. Everett's assistant." She braced for the usual judgment. Helen's eyes sparkled with interest rather than condescension. "Ah, the miracle worker. Dominic's actually been attending meetings on time since you arrived." "Just doing my job, and revolutionizing our quarterly reporting format, I hear." Helen sipped her champagne. "Intelligence doesn't go unnoticed, dear, regardless of where you started." Before Olivia could respond, the crowd parted, revealing Dominic in conversation with a stunning woman whose hand rested possessively on his arm. Something twisted in Olivia's chest. "Valentina Costa," Helen explained, following her gaze. "Shipping heiress. Their families have been pushing them together for years." Dominic looked up then, his eyes finding Olivia across the room. Something flickered in his expression before Valentina recaptured his attention. "Complicated man, our CEO," Helen mused. "Brilliant with technology, hopeless with people. His father was worse, cold as ice and twice as hard. Dominic was never good enough for him, no matter what he achieved." The pieces clicked together. His isolation, his difficulty connecting. The lonely boy had become a guarded man. Later, as the gala whirled around her, Olivia found herself on a deserted terrace, escaping the suffocating opulence. Footsteps approached. She knew without turning that it was Dominic. "Hiding?" he asked, joining her at the balustrade. "Breathing," she corrected. "Your world is intense. It's not my world. It's just where I do business." He loosened his tie slightly. "Valentina asked about you." Olivia kept her expression neutral. "What did you tell her?" "That you're exceptionally competent." He paused. She didn't believe that was all. "And is it?" The question escaped before she could reconsider. His eyes held hers, dark and unreadable in the dim light. "You know it isn't." The moment stretched between them, taut with possibility. The terrace door opened, spilling light and chatter. "Dominic, darling, they're waiting for your speech," called Valentina. Reality crashed back. He straightened, nodded once to Olivia, and returned to his obligations, leaving her with words unspoken and possibilities unrealized. The following weeks brought new tensions. Olivia excelled professionally, earning respect from even the most skeptical executives. But each achievement widened the gap between who she had been and who she was becoming. Her sister Penny noticed first. "You talk differently now. Use words like leverage and strategize." "It's just work jargon," Olivia dismissed. "You missed dinner with the Washingtons last weekend. Mrs. Washington asked if you'd gotten too important for us now." The accusation stung because it contained a grain of truth. She was changing, adapting to Dominic's world even as she told herself she was just doing her job. Meanwhile, Dominic struggled with his own conflicts. Board members questioned his judgment in promoting her. Competitors insinuated impropriety. Valentina made her expectations clear during charity events where they appeared together. The final catalyst came when Eleanor Vance cornered Olivia in the break room. "Whatever you think is happening between you and Dominic, it isn't real," she said coldly. "People like us don't end up with people like you. We might sleep with you, even fancy ourselves in love, but we marry our own kind." Olivia stood her ground. "You don't know anything about me or Mr. Everett. I know he's considering a merger with Costa Shipping that would double our Asian market share. I know Valentina comes with that deal." Eleanor's smile was venomous. "How can you compete with that?" Towers and truths, the Costa merger dominated everything. Olivia's days became an endless parade of meetings, contracts, and feasibility studies. If she and Dominic rarely spoke beyond professional necessities, she told herself it was merely the demands of business, until the thumb drive appeared on her desk. The anonymous note attached read simply, "What Everett Innovations is really buying." The drive contained damning evidence. Costa Shipping had been falsifying environmental compliance records for years. The merger would saddle Everett Innovations with catastrophic liabilities. Olivia's hand trembled as she considered the implications. Taking this to Dominic meant derailing the merger, angering the board, and potentially alienating him forever. Not taking it to him meant betraying his trust, and everything she'd come to respect about him. The decision made itself. She found him working late. Tie discarded, sleeves rolled up, reminiscent of that first night she'd truly seen him. "This can't wait until morning?" he asked without looking up. "No." She placed the drive on his desk. "Someone wanted me to see this before the merger proceeds." His expression darkened as he reviewed the files. "Who gave you this?" It was anonymous. "And you believed it immediately?" "These could be fabricated." "I verified the inspection dates through public records," she countered. "The Costa ships were nowhere near the reported inspection locations on these dates." He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "Do you understand what you're asking me to do? This merger has been in motion for months. The board is unanimous. Valentina's father would let you take the fall when this eventually comes out," she finished quietly. He turned, his expression conflicted. "Why bring this to me? It would have been easier to leak it anonymously yourself." "Because despite what everyone thinks, I didn't take this job to get close to you." Olivia met his gaze steadily. I took it because that night during the blizzard, I saw a man who valued truth, who understood transformation and sacrifice. I believed in that man. Something broke in his carefully maintained facade. What if I'm not that man anymore? What if I never was, and that night was the aberration? Then I've misjudged everything. She moved toward the door. And everyone who whispers that I'm just the housekeeper who slept her way into this position would be right about my judgment, if not the means. His voice stopped her. I ended things with Valentina last week. She turned slowly, afraid to misunderstand. The merger was never about her, he continued. But I let people believe it was because it was easier than admitting the truth. Which is? That I've been afraid of changing what my life was supposed to be, of wanting something I never planned for. He moved toward her. Of you, Olivia. Of how you make me feel. The walls between them, of class, expectation, propriety, suddenly seemed as insubstantial as shadows. The board will fight you on the merger, she warned. Let them. His hand found hers. I built this company to create something meaningful, not to become my father. It's time I remembered that. And us? She whispered. Us is the most real thing in my life. His eyes held a vulnerability she'd only glimpsed that snowy night. If you'll risk the whispers and the judgment. I've been risking those since the day I took this job, she reminded him with a small smile. Outside the window, the city sparkled below them, the same view that had once represented the distance between their worlds. Now it looked like possibility stretching to the horizon, a landscape they might navigate together. What happens now? She asked. Now, he said, his fingers interlacing with hers, we write our own story, one where the housekeeper and the billionaire both become something neither expected. She leaned into him, no longer the invisible presence in his home, but a woman choosing her path. I think I'd like that story. So would I, Dominic murmured as his lips finally found hers, sealing a promise that had begun on a snowy night when two people, trapped together, had finally seen each other clearly.